My wife cheated on me with my best friend, stole $250, $0 from our joint account during our divorce, and now she's claiming ownership of our family home. Am I screwed? Hello, everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. It started with something small, but the gut feeling kept gnawing at me. I never thought I'd be the guy to catch his wife cheating, especially not after almost 10 years of marriage. Her name is Jessica, and she's always been a bit of a bitchy diva, but I loved her, or at least I thought I did. We had our ups and downs like any couple, but lately I'd noticed her acting weird, more secretive, more defensive when I asked about her phone, and she was suddenly working late more often. I brushed it off initially, telling myself she was just stressed, but then things started to come apart at the seams. It all unraveled one evening when I came home early from work unexpectedly. I wanted to surprise her, maybe catch her off guard, but instead I caught her in our bedroom in bed with some guy I didn't recognize. The guy was older, probably in his late 40s, with a slick haircut and a smug look on his face. They didn't notice me walk in at first. I froze, watching them kiss, her hands all over him like she was starved for affection. My stomach dropped. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I didn't say a word at first. I just stood there watching the scene unfold like I was watching some sick movie. Jessica looked up and saw me standing there, her face twisted into this fake, bitchy smile. "Oh, hey, babe," she said, trying to act casual, like she wasn't caught red-handed. The guy looked equally surprised, then quickly grabbed his clothes and started pulling them on. Jessica turned to me, her eyes cold. "What are you doing here?" "I don't know, working late." She lied with that annoying, dismissive tone she always uses when she's trying to make herself seem innocent. But I knew better. I saw the way she was acting, the way her cheeks flushed, the way she avoided eye contact. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. The betrayal hit me like a freight train. I had no idea she was capable of cheating, not with someone like him. I felt a mix of rage, sadness, and disbelief. I wanted to scream, to shout at her, but I just stood there, trying to process what I'd just seen. I looked at her and realized that for a long time, I'd been blind to what was going on right under my nose. She had been sneaking around, lying, hiding things from me. I knew I had to confront her, but I also knew that this wasn't just about infidelity anymore. It was about trust, respect, and everything I thought our marriage was built on. The next few days were a blur of emotions. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that moment, the way her face changed when she saw me, the way she tried to act like everything was fine. I started digging into her phone, her emails, her bank accounts. I had to find out if there was more to this than just a one-time thing. And that's when I found it, the messages, the texts, the pictures. Jessica had been cheating on me for months, not just with that guy, but with someone else too. And she had been stealing money from our joint account, about $250, $0 during our divorce process. That's when I realized this was bigger than I thought. It wasn't just an affair. It was a full-blown betrayal, a carefully calculated plan to screw me over. I couldn't believe she'd do all this. The lies, the cheating, the theft. How could she be so heartless? She kept lying, saying she was just stressed, that she didn't mean for it to go this far. She claimed she loved me, that it was just sex, that she was confused. But I knew better. I saw the truth in her messages, the way she talked about her lovers like they meant something to her. I felt like I'd been hit by a wrecking ball. My trust was shattered, and I was furious, furious at her, at myself for not seeing it sooner, and at the whole damn situation. I knew I had to do something, but I wasn't sure what yet. All I knew was I wasn't going to let her get away with it, not without paying a price. After I found out everything, the cheating, the money, the lies, I felt like I was living in some twisted nightmare. The betrayal was so deep that I couldn't even tell if I was more angry or just plain heartbroken. I had trusted Jessica with my life, and she had turned around and stabbed me in the back in the worst way possible. I spent nights staring at the ceiling, replaying everything I'd uncovered, trying to make sense of it all. The worst part: her denial. Every time I confronted her, she spun some bullshit about how it was all a misunderstanding, how she was under pressure, or how she didn't mean for it to go this far. That bitch was good at lying, but I wasn't born yesterday. I knew her game. One day I decided to confront her directly. I told her I knew everything: the affair, the stolen money, the lies. Her first reaction was classic Jessica. She started crying, acting all innocent, claiming she was sorry and that she didn't mean to hurt me. She even had the nerve to say she was confused, that she loved me and that she was just trying to find herself after a rough patch. Yeah, right. I wasn't buying any of it. I looked her dead in the eyes and told her she was a lying, manipulative bitch who had played me for a fool. I told her I'd been through enough, that I wasn't going to let her walk all over me anymore. The emotional toll hit me hard. I felt a mixture of rage, despair, and disappointment. It was like my entire world was crumbling around me, and I was powerless to stop it. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind. I'd given her everything: my trust, my love, my money, and she had repaid me with this. I was angry at her, yes, but also angry at myself for not seeing the signs sooner. I was furious that she stole over $250, $0 from our joint account during the divorce process. That money was supposed to be for our future, our kids' education, our retirement. Instead, she used it to fund her affair, to buy gifts for her lovers, to live a double life. I felt sick thinking about how she had manipulated everyone around her, including her own family, to hide what she was doing. I decided I needed to do something about it. I couldn't let her get away with this. Not just the affair, but the theft and her outright lies. I started gathering evidence: screenshots, bank statements, everything I could find. I wanted to take her to court to make sure she paid for what she'd done. I also started talking to a lawyer, and that's when I learned she was claiming ownership of our house, our family home. She's trying to play the victim, saying she has rights, even though she's the one who betrayed me. That's when I realized this was about to get even uglier. She's not just a cheating wife, she's a con artist, a thief, and a manipulator rolled into one. Jessica's behavior got worse as the days went by. She started acting even more bitchy, more entitled. She throw tantrums, lie about where she was, and accuse me of trying to ruin her life. She insisted she was the victim, that I was overreacting, that she deserved to keep the house because she worked so hard for it. But I knew better. I had all the proof I needed that she'd been lying and stealing from me. I was starting to plan my next move: how to expose her lies, how to protect what was left of my life, and how to make sure she didn't get away with this. The hardest part: the emotional fallout. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and foolish for not catching her sooner. Every time I looked at her, I saw the woman I loved turn into a stranger, someone capable of cheating, stealing, and lying without a second thought. I was angry at her for destroying what we built, but I was also angry at myself for being so blind. I had trusted her blindly, shared everything with her, and now I was left to pick up the pieces of a shattered marriage. But I wasn't going to let her win. Not after everything. I was determined to fight, to get justice, and to reclaim my life from her treachery. The more I dug into her financials and her stories, the clearer it became that Jessica had planned this whole thing for a while. She wasn't just cheating, she was orchestrating her escape, and she was doing it with cold calculation. I found bank transfers, secret accounts, and receipts for luxury trips she never mentioned. The $250, $0 she stole from our joint account wasn't just a spur-of-the-moment thing. It was carefully siphoned off over months, probably to fund her new life with whoever she was screwing around with. It made me sick to think about how much she'd lied, how much she'd stolen from us. One night, I sat her down and demanded answers. I told her I knew about the money, about her affair, everything. Her eyes flashed with anger and she spun her usual bullshit: how she was just stressed, how I was overreacting, how she loved me but needed something else to feel alive. She said she was confused, that she didn't want a divorce, that she still loved us. But I could see through it. That's when I decided I couldn't keep playing her game anymore. I had to take control. I told her I was going to fight for everything: our house, the money she stole, the truth. I told her she wasn't going to get away with this. The next step was legal action. I hired a lawyer and we started the process of divorce. I also filed a claim for the stolen money, knowing full well she'd fight tooth and nail to keep it. Meanwhile, Jessica kept up her act, playing the victim, crying, begging me not to ruin her life. She threw tantrums, calling me heartless, accusing me of trying to destroy her. But I knew better. Her tears were fake, her apologies hollow. She had already destroyed my trust, and I wasn't about to let her do it again. I was prepared for a long, ugly fight, but I was determined to come out on top. Jessica also started claiming ownership of the house, saying she had rights because she helped pay the mortgage, even though I knew she had been secretly siphoning money away. Her lies were relentless. She insisted she was entitled to half the house, even though I had all the proof she'd been lying about her whereabouts and her finances. I had to prepare for a court battle, and I knew it wouldn't be pretty. I also started looking into her other assets, trying to see what she might try to hide or claim. I wanted to make sure she didn't pull some sneaky move to keep everything, especially the house, which was supposed to be our family's safe place. In the meantime, I felt a strange mix of relief and dread. Relief, because I finally had some answers and was taking action. Dread, because I knew this was just the beginning of a long, painful process. Jessica's behavior grew more erratic and bitchy. She'd lash out at me, accuse me of trying to ruin her life, and try to manipulate everyone around her. I caught her lying about her whereabouts, about her finances, about her plans for the future. It was clear she was trying to spin her story to make herself look innocent and me the villain, but I wasn't falling for it anymore. I had the evidence, and I was ready to fight for what was rightfully mine. Honestly, I felt like I was in some kind of nightmare. The woman I loved, the woman I trusted, had turned into someone I barely recognized. She was a cheat, a thief, and a liar. I felt betrayed to my core, but at the same time, I knew I had to stay strong. I had to be smart, strategic, and prepared for whatever she threw at me, because I wasn't about to lose everything, my marriage, my home, my peace of mind, without a fight. And I knew deep down that this was going to get even messier before it got better. The court dates started piling up, and Jessica's true colors came out more and more. She became even more manipulative, trying to sway the judge with her bitchy attitude and fake tears. She insisted she deserved to keep the house because she helped pay the mortgage, even though I had all the bank statements showing she had been secretly draining our account for months. She claimed she was the victim, that I was trying to ruin her life, and that she had a right to the money she earned by helping with bills. It was all bullshit, but she knew how to spin it well enough to make people doubt me. Meanwhile, I was gathering everything: proof of her affair, the stolen money, her lies about her whereabouts, and her false claims to the house. I worked with my lawyer to prepare a detailed case that would strip her of any claim to our assets. I also hired a private investigator to track her movements, just in case she tried to hide anything or run off with more money. The more I uncovered, the more I realized how deep her deception went. She had been planning this for a long time, probably even before I caught her in bed with that guy. She'd been living a double life, cheating, stealing, and manipulating everyone around her. Jessica's behavior grew more hostile. She started throwing tantrums in court, yelling at the judge, accusing me of trying to ruin her life just because I was fighting for what was rightfully mine. She called me heartless, vindictive, and obsessed with revenge. Honestly, I didn't care anymore. I was done being the victim in her twisted game. I knew I had to stay focused, to stay calm, and to keep pushing forward. I knew she'd try to spin things her way, but I had the evidence to shut her down. One particularly nasty day in court, she made a scene. She yelled at me in front of everyone, claiming I was a terrible husband who didn't care about her feelings. She cried crocodile tears, acting like she was the one being wronged, but I kept my cool. I looked her dead in the eyes and told her she was a liar and a thief, and that I wasn't going to let her manipulate her way out of this. I presented all the evidence: screenshots, bank statements, witness statements, and the judge saw right through her act. It was satisfying to see her get called out like that, but I knew her ego wouldn't let her back down easily. The most infuriating part was her claiming ownership of the house. She kept insisting she had rights, even though she'd been caught red-handed with the affair and the stolen money. I had legal documents showing she'd transferred assets secretly, and I was ready to fight her for every inch of what was ours. I wanted her to understand that her lies and betrayal weren't going to get her anywhere. I was determined to protect what was left of my life, my home, my savings, my sanity. I also started talking to other lawyers, trying to figure out how to prevent her from pulling some sneaky move to claim everything. I felt like I was living in a constant state of rage and frustration. Jessica was relentless, bitchy, manipulative, and unrepentant. She kept trying to turn the tables to make herself look like the victim, but I saw through her act. Every day I felt more betrayed, more exhausted, but I refused to give up. I had to stay strong for myself, for the life I wanted to rebuild. I knew this wasn't over yet. The worst was still to come, but I was ready. I'd fight tooth and nail to take back what she tried to steal and to make sure she paid for her lies. Because at the end of the day, I knew the truth would come out, and I wasn't going to let her get away with ruining everything I worked so hard for. The court battles dragged on for weeks, and Jessica's behavior only got worse. She was more aggressive, more bitchy, trying every trick in the book to sway the judge or delay the proceedings. She'd show up late, throw tantrums, and even try to bribe some of the court staff with false promises or fake tears. It was clear she was desperate, and her desperation only made her more reckless. Meanwhile, I stayed composed and focused, presenting every piece of evidence I had collected. I made sure the judge saw through her lies, showing her affair, the stolen money, her attempts to claim the house unfairly. One day I finally got some good news. My lawyer told me the judge was leaning in my favor, that Jessica's claims to the house and the money were weak, based on her lies and manipulations. It was a small victory, but it felt huge after all the stress and betrayal I'd endured. Still, I knew better than to get complacent. Jessica was the type to fight dirty, and I was prepared for her to dig in her heels even more. She responded by escalating her bitchiness. She started calling me names, accusing me of being a controlling, jealous husband who just wanted to ruin her life. She tried to spin her affair and theft as just mistakes, claiming she was under so much pressure that she lost herself. She even went as far as to say I was abusive, which was laughable. I knew her game, playing the victim, trying to turn everyone against me. But I had the evidence, and I was ready to fight her accusations. I told my lawyer to prepare for her to try and sway the court with emotional manipulation, but I was confident we had the facts on our side. The hardest part, watching her try to manipulate everyone around her, from friends to family, even some court officials. She was good at pretending to be innocent, but I saw right through her. Every time she threw a fit, I just kept my head down and stayed professional. I refused to let her drag me into her chaos. I knew that if I kept my cool, the truth would come out, and she'd be the one exposed as the liar and thief she really was. In the midst of all this, I realized how much I'd been naive. I'd trusted her with my life, my money, my heart, and she'd used all of that against me. But I also learned something important: how to be stronger, smarter, and more cautious. Jessica's real face was finally clear, and I knew I'd never let her do this to me again. I had to take control, protect what was mine, and make sure she paid for her betrayal. This fight was far from over, but I was ready for whatever she threw my way. I wasn't going to let her win, not after all. She'd put me through. This was about more than money or a house now. It was about my dignity, my future, and reclaiming my life from her treachery. Finally, after months of legal battles, lies, and manipulation, the court ruling came through. The judge's decision was clear. Jessica had no legitimate claim to the house, and the money she stole from our joint account would be returned to me. It was a hard-fought victory, earned through meticulous evidence and unwavering resolve. Watching her reaction, her bitchy smirk fading into shock and then fury, felt like a small win, but I knew this wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about reclaiming what was stolen, restoring some sense of justice after a betrayal that cut so deep. Jessica didn't go quietly. She threw one last tantrum, shouting that I was ruining her life, that I was a jealous, vindictive husband trying to punish her for being honest about her feelings. She tried to spin the entire story as her being the victim, But the court saw through her lies. Her tears, her accusations, they were just her final desperate attempt to cling to whatever shred of control she had left. But I was having it. I stood my ground, knowing I had played this fight by the rules with integrity. In the end, I moved out of the house. It was surreal walking away from the place we'd built together, knowing she no longer had any claim to it. I took what was mine, my savings, the evidence, and most importantly, my dignity. I cut all ties with Jessica, blocking her from my life entirely. The emotional pain still lingers, but I feel a strange sense of relief. I learned the hard way that trust is fragile and betrayal can come from the people you love the most. But I also learned that strength comes from facing the truth, no matter how ugly it is. Looking back, I realize I should have seen the signs sooner, but I also understand that sometimes you only see the truth when it's forced upon you. The lessons are brutal but necessary. If there's anything I want to tell anyone reading this, trust your instincts. Watch for the little signs: secretive behavior, financial irregularities, emotional distance. Don't ignore the red flags, no matter how much you want to believe in the best. And most importantly, don't let someone's lies define your life. Stand up for yourself, fight for what's right, and don't be afraid to walk away from someone who doesn't value you. I'm still healing, still trying to put the pieces back together. But I know I'll come out stronger. Jessica's betrayal was a blow, but it also opened my eyes to who I am and what I deserve. I won't let anyone take that away from me again. Life is too precious, and I refuse to let a liar and thief like her ruin it anymore. Moving forward, I focus on rebuilding, on trusting again, carefully, cautiously, but with hope. Because after everything, I still believe in the possibility of a better future, one where honesty and respect are the foundation.